Ahem. Today, I'm going to tell you the story of the 1,000-Year Door. An awfully long... You've heard this one before? Okay, wait. Don't go yet. I can make it more interesting. I'll ban the use of action commands on this adventure. Still too easy for you? Fine. How about I add a bunch of rules? Pause the book if you need time to read them, because we've got some Antsy Anthonys here, I guess. I even drew pictures and practiced a ton of voices for the old book. Whatever, I don't care. After Mario arrives at Rogueport, he has to fight Lord Crump. More like Lord Chump, since he's easily beaten without action commands. With action commands, when Mario stomps on an enemy for the first time, you can press A to jump an extra time to deal double damage. Mario's hammer can be charged by holding left until the star lights up, and if released properly, does 1 extra damage. Guarding and super blocking are defensive action commands we can't use either. A regular guard has a player character press A right before an enemy attack hits them to lower the damage taken by 1. A super guard is more precise but completely blocks all damage and deals 1 damage back to the attacker. Yeah, if that wasn't already banned because of this challenge, it would be banned in this challenge. Afterwards, Goombella officially joins the team, which is great because without her, Mario would unironically lose to a couple of Goombas. Goombella has a jump of her own that works the same as Mario's. She also has the skill Tattle, which gives the player information about enemies, like how much defense they have and their weaknesses. More importantly, it shows enemy health on screen. And even though you need an action command for it to work where you have to press A while the moving cursor's in the circle, I allowed it for a while since I think it makes for a better viewing experience seeing enemy health, and I could just keep track of it with a pen and paper. But unlike when I did this challenge in Bug Fables, losing a fight makes the tattle go away, so I'd be wasting precious and necessary turns tattling instead of winning. So I stopped doing it in the middle of chapter 1. I'll get the badge that shows enemy health later, but for now I'll just use the power of editing to show it instead. I still tattled in this fight to put me in a worse position, since without Goombella's head bonk, I'm only dealing 1 damage per turn. And since you can't get double pain yet, I'll be using my imagination to pretend that Mario only has 5 health, so he can't go below 6 or I have to restart. What's great about this is I also can't proc the effects of danger badges until I get double pain, so it's all the downsides with none of the benefits for now. While we're doing that, Goombella can use her imagination to pretend like Mario is heroic while he hides behind her, as enemies are more likely to attack the character in front. Partners acting as meat shields is one of the most important strategies for this challenge, since you only get a game over if Mario dies, not a partner. Just throw them back in his backpack. Really, they're fine, they don't mind. I actually lost multiple times due to Mario dying in 3 hits and Goombella being too absorbed in her book to bonk, but of course we get through after a while. I'm avoiding grinding as much as possible, but the funny thing about that is I have to rely on running away from combats. Running away is more likely to succeed by rapidly pressing A and increasing the retracting green bar's size. Let me tell you, avoiding grinding and not being able to run most of the time is a bad combination. Sometimes it's straight up impossible to run on the first try, so I have to go back to my last save. I really am my worst enemy sometimes. We can now pick up our first field items, a mushroom and fire flower. Even using Scavenging Rules, where you can only pick up items on the field and only once if it respawns, I still avoid using them as much as possible. In fact, I used so few items that I was quickly running out of storage and had to start avoiding field items so I could come back to them later if I needed them. But for now, I stupidly pick up everything I can get. Monkey brain. After reaching the 1,000-Year Door, Mario unlocks his first of many special moves. Sweet Treat uses 1 star point and heals Mario and his partner depending on the amount of targets you hit. And do you want to take a wild guess as to how he hits the targets? Yeah, an action command. To be fair, it's not completely useless, it heals poison regardless of any action command. So yeah, it's useless. I had to go out of my way to get footage of healing poison since it never came up. The professor gives Mario his first badge, which is extremely good, especially early on, as it gives Mario a 2 FP hammer move that deals 3 damage instead of 1 without the action command. I also have enough badge points and star pieces to buy and equip another badge, Pretty Lucky, which gives Mario a 10% chance to dodge any attack. Don't worry, I still aim for consistent strategies, but dodging every once in a while is more likely than not, especially later once we can stack more evasion. On our way to Petalburg, we're stopped by Blooper, who has 12 health and 2 tentacles with 3 health each. We spend the first 3 turns jumping into them, with them only dealing 1 damage each. Since losing a tentacle reduces his damage, Blooper falls down, barely hurting the party. Although, even with Power Smash, Blooper hangs on with 1 health and regenerates his tentacles, so I have to knock him down once more to finish the fight. On the way to Schwank Fortress, we're forced into a stage hazard tutorial fight. Normally, I'd consider pressing X to stop the audience from throwing things as an action command and ban it. If it's an item, I just toss it. In this one instance, however, the game doesn't progress until we actually press X to jump on the audience member. As I did in Bug Fables, I'll argue once again that this isn't a real action command, since action commands are time-based and you can actually miss them. So I'm not too upset about this personally, though feel free to disagree with me in the comments. I'm actually kind of curious about this one, and also engagement's cool. That's also nice. The next required fight is against the Bold Clefs with 2 defense, meaning the only way I can damage them is with the 3 attack Power Smash. Only problem is we can only use it twice before running out of FP. I got lucky on my first attempt with a bucket falling on one of them for 1 damage. I stayed for a while longer hoping for another stage hazard, but after a couple of minutes I decided to come back with a new badge. I use another 4 star pieces to buy Happy Flower, which for 2 badge points gives me a 50% chance to recover 1 FP at the start of the turn. We don't even need to rely on luck in this fight since we can use the defend command with Goombella to have her gain 1 defense for the turn with no action command attached. Bald Clefs always target the character in front, so she takes 0 damage while Mario slowly damages them for the victory. Unfortunately, the next fight isn't as forgiving. This time we face 2 bristles with 4 defense. Nothing we have access to at this point can deal enough damage, and we can't even pierce their defense with Piercing Blow since they have a counterattack that stops Mario from using hammer attacks. So we're forced to use our first item, a POW block. It sucks, but this fight is designed to require a POW block even in casual playthrough anyway, so whatever. Then we've got to fight 4 fuzzies in 2 separate combats. These pierce defense, so there's no point in defending against their 1 damage attack that also heals them that amount. At least after the first 2 turns where Mario power smashes them to one-shot 2 of them. With only 2 left, basic attacks for a couple more turns damages and kills them faster than they can heal. I haven't mentioned this yet, but we've had to heal after every fight so far, as even if we didn't take damage, we're always out of FP. We can leave after the first fuzzy combat, but we're trapped inside without the heal block before defeating the boss after the second fuzzy combat. It's a good thing we level up after that then for the full heal. We've got a decision to make. Badge points to use more badges, badge points to use more badges, or badge points to use more badges. After thinking it over, I choose badge points so I can use more badges. This lets me go into the boss with all my badges except for multi-bounce, which for 2 FP is the same as a regular jump without action commands. The gold fuzzy has 10 health and doesn't heal like the other fuzzies. Once it reaches 7 health, it summons an army of fuzzies that attack and count as grounded enemies that block power smash hits for the gold fuzzy, which is the only thing we need to kill in order to win the fight. I considered buying power jump to make my jumps do 3 damage for 2 FP, but I don't have a lot of gold right now, and I didn't want to softlock myself from buying a different badge from the lovely house of badges that I might need later, so I got the golden fuzzy down to 8 health before using power smash. After the first round of attacks from the fuzzy horde and gold fuzzy, Goombella is only at 3 health. If we both attack, even if they target Goombella again, Mario will lose far before dealing enough damage by himself. Instead, have Goombella defend and hope she gets targeted by the horde while Mario does 1 damage. Do this again next turn, leaving the boss at 3 health. This time we can both attack to leave the boss at 1 health, and hope the horde kills Goombella so Mario can deal the last point of damage himself. Koops joins the party as we make our way to Hooktail Castle. His basic attack only deals 1 damage to the first grounded enemy without the action command, and his power shell does the same damage, but still hits all grounded enemies. His 1 defense is very good for our meat shield strategy, so he's pretty much an upgrade from Goombella. The next required fight is against Red Bones and his army of Dull Bones. All these enemies have 1 defense, so we can only damage them with Power Smash, which even if we get lucky enough to dodge all their attacks and regain FP every turn, more Dull Bones get summoned requiring more FP and dodges. I ended up fighting Gus since he was blocking the Trouble Center. Technically you can pay him 10 coins to get through, but I could also use those 10 coins to buy badges, and nobody gets in the way of my badges. His fight is doable with Koops since he's got enough defense and health to survive for a while, and can actually hit him unlike Goombella's head bonk. I still use her as a meat shield when Koops faints. She likes being useful, it's fine. I completed some troubles to buy Last Stand P, which makes partners take half damage when below 6 health, and FP Drain, which makes Mario recover 1 FP when attacking, but he loses 1 damage. Still, the odds of actually winning are extremely low, so even though this fight is theoretically possible without items, the luck required is enough that I feel justified in just using a Fire Flower to kill all the Dull Bones, and leave Red Bones in a range to kill with 1 Power Smash. The next required fight is Hooktail. We'll take advantage of her weakness to attack FXG. When Mario attacks her, she'll lose her 1 defense and do less damage. This makes her fight easy enough to deal the 30 damage needed to beat her on my second attempt without needing to waste time backtracking to rank up Koops or pick up Mega Rush P. Though she almost kills Koops, it's okay, he likes being useful. We level up again. Badge points. I'm always picking badge points. Now that we're back in Rogueport, I do rank up Koops and he gains the 4 FP skill, Shell Shield, which unfortunately never falls without the Never mind. Surprisingly, it does fall eventually, but always at the lowest point where it has 2 HP instead of 8. That might not seem too good, but it's actually pretty useful. Beating Chapter 1 makes Charlieton appear in Rogueport next to the He sells multiple useful badges, including the most important one for this challenge, Double Pain, which makes Mario take double damage. It's not tactically useful for this, but it's part of the challenge, though now Mario can actually use danger badges. Since I'm avoiding grinding experience, I need to make money another way, and sure, I could run away from battles while the audience slowly gives me coins, but no, I won't do that because it's stupid. I decided I'd allow myself to buy items from the Pianta Parlor, but only to sell them. Cake Mix costs 6 Pianta tokens and surprisingly sells for 8 coins. I'm certain I didn't grind tokens in the most efficient way as I played the playing game and averaged 30 tokens on each attempt. But I pulled up some YouTube, relaxed, and after a couple hours had enough money to buy every badge from the lovely house of badges. Each time I walked to the store to sell enough cake mix to make Gourmet Guy blush, I talked to Charlieton since he switches his shop constantly. I kept grinding coins until I got every single badge from him. I don't know why I bought this one, I was just kind of bored. And even though I can't grind badges from fights, I think buying extra copies of ones from the parlor is fair since they're not as broken as having 10 pretty luckies. So I also got multiple power jumps. FP pluses and HP pluses are the same as leveling up health or FP, so they're the real reason to always choose badge points, as with them I can choose which fights having more FP or other badges is more useful. I also pick up Damage Dodge, the first action command based badge that's actually good, that I can't use, as it boosts the defense of successful blocks by 1 for only 2 badge points. Chapter 2 is mostly backtracking, so the first thing of note is obtaining the Quake Hammer badge, which still hits all grounded enemies and ones on the ceiling without needing the action command. The first required fight is against the Shadow Sisters. Having 3 powerful enemies at once is almost always bad, as it leaves Mario open to more attacks every turn. We're going to need to use some of our new badges to win this one. The sisters all have the gimmick of mostly using weaker punches until reaching about half of their health, so I'll equip 2 copies of Power Jump. It starts at 2 FP, but for each copy, the FP required doubles and the damage increases by 2. So with the Jumpman badge, that makes it so Mario can't use hammers, but increases jump attacks by 1 damage. Each 4 FP Power Jump does 6 damage. That's enough to take each sister out of the battle before they use their damaging magic. To facilitate all the FP we need, I also equip FP+. We want Goombella to hit Beldum for the first 3 turns to drop her health to 6 for later. Meanwhile, Mario uses the first 2 turns to take out the 12 health Marilyn before she uses any of her powerful attacks. Beldum's support magic usually gets in the way somehow, either boosting Vivian's attack or lowering my team's attack. In this case, Goombella, so I'll switch her out for Koops on turn 3 and attack Beldum with Mario to put her at 5 health. As long as Mario doesn't get successfully attacked by Vivian on the turn he power jumps Beldum's remaining health away, we're guaranteed victory from this point. Even though Vivian's attacks deal 2 damage, defending with Mario actually reduces her damage against him to 0. This is because of double pain. It usually doubles 1 to 2, but since we take 0 damage from the 1 defense point, that gets doubled all the way to 0. So I can leave Vivian at 6 health to stop her magic attacks and wait until Happy Flower recovers enough FP to power jump her to finish the battle. We've got a couple of small fights before the boss, like some X-Nauts and Piters. Well, at least I thought the Piters were required at first and killed them since they scare Punies away. But then I left the tree to ensure I wasn't trapped in there before saving, as I keep backup saves on other files in case I softlock myself in a chapter, needing something from Rogueport but unable to go back. However, I didn't account for that respawning the Piters, so I accidentally trapped myself into gaining extra experience. Except you sort of can bring some Punies with you without them getting scared if you time your movement just when the Piters go back up. At first I only got 51 through, but that wasn't enough to defeat the 100 Jabbies, even with Flurry helping. But after a couple more tries, I got 91 through, which was enough to win and leave them behind with the Puny Orb, so I could bring the other 10 separately. But then I remembered this isn't at all what the challenge is about, so instead of doing that annoying thing for no reason, I just killed the Piters. Fight me about it. We unlock the Super Boots, which boosts Mario's jumping attack by 1 damage passively, and gives him the move Spin Jump, which for 2 FP is the same as a regular jump. We also pick up the Charge badge, which is about to come in handy against Magnus von Grapple. Charge gives Mario a skill by that name that gives him a one-time use plus 2 attack buff on his next attack. And the best part is, it stacks with itself until it's used up by an attack. This is usually best paired with attacks that hit multiple times, like a regular jump when you can use action commands, but charging still has an important use we'll be taking advantage of in this challenge, where it skips harder phases of fights entirely. When Magnus von Grapple is at about half of his 30 health, he starts to summon his fists as separate enemies. These have 2 health and attack for a massive 8 damage on Mario, in addition to Magnus von Grapple's attack, which is also stronger now. So I'd rather charge with Mario while lowering the boss's health enough to where he doesn't switch phases. And once he's at around 20 health, a charged up Mega Rushed attack deals 26 damage. I'm not going to talk about the Peach and Bowser intermissions much, but this Peach intermission actually has action commands. Sort of. Peach has to dance with a hologram of herself and time button presses, otherwise she'll have to redo it until tech understands dancing. And I honestly don't consider these button presses as action commands, as I associate them entirely with battles where you need to time attacks or blocks. If you extend action commands to mean any button presses where timing is required, then this jump to make it to Chapter 1 is an action command. Dodging enemies in the overworld is an action command. Playing games with Joy-Con drift is an action command. Are there any other action commands I should know about? So I'm not even going to count the number of 6 button presses. The minimum number of button presses needed to beat this minigame is 6. You can fail the first 5 presses, but the 6th will make you lose, so press the button on that number and every other button press after that, since missing 2 in a row at this point will fail the minigame as well. We've got some actual action commands to catch up on. Flurry's Body Slam just straight up misses. Her Gale Force has a ton of modifiers that affect its success rate, with spamming A being one of them, but it doesn't work on bosses anyway, so it's already pretty useless. Earth Tremor costs 2 SP and actually does 1 piercing damage to all grounded enemies. It only gains the ability to hit flying enemies when powered up by action commands, and also more damage, obviously. Clockout also costs 2 SP and drops a bomb on Mario. At least the success rate of it immobilizing targets is based on the action commands, so even though we can't throw it at the enemies, it won't affect us other than wasting a turn and SP. Liking the video has the viewer press the like button, but without action commands, I can't do that. Someone watching who can use action commands could though. Beating chapters unlocks more badges at the lovely House of Badges, with the most important one we can buy now being Power Rush, which boosts Mario's attack by 2 when below 6 health. And before heading into Chapter 3, I rank up Goombella. She gains the 3 FP skill Multi-Bonk, which unsurprisingly is a single bonk without the action command. I also buy Peekaboo to see enemy health, and tried to get to floor 30 of the Pit of 100 Trials for a badge. Bad idea. Chapter 3 is full of required fights as we rank our way up to the top of the Glitz Pit. These fights come with special conditions that need to be met in order to count as a victory to progress the story. Though they almost never matter, and even if they do, they can nearly always be rerolled into an easy one after losing. The only basic combat to give me any trouble was the handed overs who run away after stealing coins or items from unblocked attacks. So Mario came into the fight with 1 health to use Power Rush and Mega Rush on his Quake Hammer to deal a huge 9 damage and take them all down in 1 turn. But things get really bad for us when facing the Adonis twins. Why? Because they're immune to all types of damage except for 1 specific attack. I tried piercing, items, statuses, and believing in myself, but none of them worked. I'm sure you can see where this is going. The only attack that can damage them requires an action command. Benny's gulp attack completely fails without doing the action command, but it gets even worse as we need to use it twice. For whatever reason, increasing Benny's attack only increases the damage the spit out enemy takes, not the damage the enemy they're spit into takes. The only way to increase the damage to the secondary target, as far as I can tell, is ranking Benny up. but that only increases its damage by 1, which leaves the second twin at the painfully low health of 1. We can't rank Benny up again until later in the game when we unlock Admiral Bobbery, though if we could, Gulp would take both twins out in one attack. Believe me, I tried everything I could think of, lowering their defense, boosting Benny's attack, using Simplifier in hopes that it negates the need to successfully use the action command, but unfortunately, 2 Gulps, and thus 2 action commands, are necessary to progress the game. It sucks, but I'm having too much fun with the challenge to stop now, so we've got no other choice than to make this a minimum action command challenge and continue on. We can deal with Bristles now without items, using any of our ways to increase attack, and Quake Hammer not being countered like other hammer attacks. After that, we unlock the Super Hammer to passively raise hammer attacks by 1 damage. It also grants us a 2 FP move by the same name that does nothing but waste FP, of course, come on. After a ranked fight, the Adonis twins get their revenge by immediately forcing me into another fight against them. That's another 2 action commands. Or, well, at least it would be if you couldn't just lose this fight and still progress the story. Bowser also ambushes us later, but you can lose that one too. This is a weird chapter, but I love it. The next noteworthy fight is against the champion, Rock Hawk. I was expecting this to be a grueling fight where I need to charge up safely somehow to skip the phase where he grabs the ceiling and does a ton of damage by making things fall on Mario, but I wanted to test if enemies still fall asleep to Sleepy Stomp without the action command, as it would completely negate the threat of taking damage against a single enemy, and to my surprise, it worked. Sleep is extremely powerful, completely skipping the enemy's turn, and Sleepy Stomp puts the target to sleep for 5 turns. The way statuses work in this game is that different enemies have different chances to be inflicted by each type of status. In this case, Rock Hawk has a 60% chance to be affected by sleep. But it gets even sillier, since unlike Bug Fables where enemies gain immunity to most statuses every time they're affected by them, TTYD enemies retain the same chance no matter how many times they're affected. Not only that, but sleep can be reapplied while the target is already asleep, resetting the counter to 5 each time it successfully affects them again. This means I can have Mario use Sleepy Stomp every turn to near guarantee victory after the first time sleep works. To increase my chances of victory even further, I equip badges to increase damage, like Jumpman and Power Plus P, which boosts partners' attacks by 1 for 6 badge points, so it's usually too expensive. This makes Rock Hawk a complete joke, but while we're talking about him, how did he beat the Adonis twins when they're invincible? I'll never have another opportunity to ask this. Anyway, Macho Grubba's next. He has a slightly lower 50% chance to fall asleep and 20 more health, but the same strategy easily beats him. We can now pick up a few new things, most importantly Power Rush P. Our new attacks are Ground Pound, which instead of increasing power by rapidly pressing ZR, increases the number of bounces Benny does, or in this case, doesn't do. Power Lift costs 3 SP and doesn't do anything as we can't move the cursor or press A on the arrows. I get Flower Saver right before the boss fight, which is great for spamming Sleepy Stomp as it reduces the FP of Mario's moves by 1, but notably not below 1. It's a bit expensive at 4 badge points, so I don't always use it. This makes the boss and his 60% sleep chance a repeat of Rock Hawk. Don't worry, in the rematch he has a weird way to counter sleep strats. To get Mario's identity back, he needs to guess the thief's name. I tried Bunko and even Wingus, which didn't work, so I'm out of ideas. I need to go back to Creepy Steeple with our new partner Vivian to discover his name is actually Dupless. What a weird name. This scares Bungo, so we have to find and fight him again, this time with our partners being tricked into fighting alongside Wingus. To make matters even worse, Vivian, realizing she was helping Mario, leaves for the first 2 turns of this battle. Without dodge luck, Mario can die as soon as turn 1, so I wanted a defensive strategy besides the usual last stand badge that makes Mario take half damage when below 6 health, as that still makes Goombella's multi-bonk do 1 damage on follow-up hits. Fortunately, we acquired the Defend Plus badge this chapter, which for 5 badge points increases Mario's defense by 1 passively. So by defending on the first 2 turns to wait for Vivian to join the fight, we take no damage to every attack except the hammer, which deals 4 damage. Once Vivian joins us, we can see just how good she'll be in this challenge. Her basic attack can hit grounded and flying enemies regardless of who's in front of the target, and does an insane 3 damage. Which doesn't sound like that much, but it's the best partner basic attack we've got, even though it doesn't burn without action commands. But here's the bad news. You know how I said this fight counters sleep? Well, for most important fights for the rest of the game, bosses have special dialogue when hitting certain health thresholds, and when they say this dialogue, they wake up. Bungo has special dialogue for when a partner faints, waking him up to switch them out for another one, but more importantly, when Wingus goes down to at least half health, Goombella wakes up to encourage him, and at 15 health he wakes himself up to say wahoo and waha. So I just focused him down and put him to sleep. Once he reaches 15 health, Mario finishes his turn with a power jump so the team can finish the fight next turn, as long as Mario dodges or doesn't get attacked. He has pretty lucky and close call equipped, so he has a 43% chance to dodge, which may sound good, but I can't dodge 2 43% chances in a row to save my life, so we're still aiming for consistency. This time I do get lucky and dodge, winning the fight and revealing I was Mario the whole time. Before leaving for Keelhole Key, I finished Miss Mouse's trouble so she joins the team. Her basic attack only does 1 damage even when ranked up, but I could always use another meat shield. Her skill, Kiss Thief, costs 2 FP and steals items or badges if you press A at the right time, both of which are banned anyway. Our other new abilities are Art Attack, which for 4 SP just puts a little star over an enemy's head. I mean, it looks pretty neat, but that's about it. Vivian's 1 FP Veil pulls herself and Mario under the stage to avoid attacks. Unless you fail the action command, then it does nothing. I upgraded Vivian so she does 1 extra damage with her basic attack, and it unlocks her Fiery Jinx. For 6 FP, it just burns all enemies without dealing the damage it normally does, but it can actually do damage with attack buffs, so it's not as bad as it may seem. I also saved before testing out every partner's rank up skill to decide if I should rank someone up before Chapter 5. Flurry's Lip Lock for 3 FP does 1 damage and heals her the same amount. Not great. Benny's Mini Egg for 3 FP does absolutely nothing. At least his action commands are consistent. Mrs. Mouse's Tease always fails to make enemies dizzy, as the chance to succeed depends on how much you hold and release A. Now that Vivian is on the team and Pine Tea Jr.'s trouble to save his dad on floor 18 is available, I venture into the Pit of 100 Trials, aiming for floor 30's treasure again. For most fights, I bring Jumpman or Hammerman depending on the enemy types. Flurry's useful for setting up easy first strikes, but swap to Vivian before entering battle, and intentionally put Mario in danger to increase his damage further. This makes the first 10 floors easy, so we get another copy of Sleepy Stomp. Wearing both copies increases the FP cost to 4, but puts the enemy to sleep for 7 turns. So it's not usually worth it, but it is something to keep in mind. On floor 20, Pine Tea can leave and we pick up Fire Drive. Fire Drive is the first action command that softlocks reality if you don't press anything. So don't use this one if you don't want to softlock reality. Floors 21 through 29 are much tougher than what we've beaten so far. We'll need to start relying on Vivian being in danger as well. Thankfully, partners that faint in battle are revived with 1 health after it ends, so it's pretty safe to keep Vivian in and she can one-shot everyone with Power Rush and Mega Rush. I got scared that I'd level up and heal from floor 28's battle, but luckily I'm 1 experience away from doing so and can just reach floor 30 for Zap Tap. It requires 3 badge points and electrifies Mario, making him immune to certain contact moves while dealing 1 damage back. And in most cases, just making contact moves also do 1 damage back to enemies. For completing the trouble, we earn a silver card, which unlocks more prizes from the Pianta Parlor. Honestly, none of the new stuff is that useful though. The next noteworthy fight is Cortez. He's got 3 phases with 20 health in each one. His scariest is the 3rd phase, where 4 weapons become additional enemies with their own health and independent attacks, but the battle ends when we kill Cortez. For the 1st phase, Cortez's 1 defense point makes Vivian's attacks deal 3 damage. Mario puts him to sleep with a 40% chance. Both keep attacking Cortez for a few turns until he's 1 hit away from the next phase. Instead of going for it right away, Mario starts charging. By the time Cortez wakes up, Mario has 4 charge, and I decide to use it to try and put Cortez to sleep again, but I don't get it. So I decide to start charging for phase 3. Cortez focuses Mario for a while, leaving him at 1 health, so I switch in Koops for his shield to block 1 attack for Mario, which is great since Cortez starts charging his attack that hits both party members. Koops defends Mario for a while, but we're running out of FP and almost have enough damage to one-shot his next phase, so I swap Vivian back in and spend 2 turns hitting Cortez with her to go to phase 3, and you know what that means. Lord Chump isn't too bad. Just take out the wall of X-Nauts first. Once he takes enough damage, X-Nauts form a row on the ceiling, so I have Vivian take them out in 2 turns, and put Chump to sleep with an 80% chance to work. This gives me enough time to put another shell shield up and switch back to Vivian before advancing to the next phase. I put him to sleep again, and next turn both party members target the X-Nauts. They eventually come back, but now we can safely target the boss, and by the time they decide to show up, the Chump is already low enough to beat that turn. We've got a lot of new skills to talk about before the next chapter. Admiral Bobbery's basic attack doesn't do anything without the action command, but his 3 FP skill Bomb Squad randomly throws the 3 bombs, which only damage enemies if the bombs are close enough, so it's not that good. Now that he's in our party, we can blow up this wall to remind Merlin to check his attic and get an orb that lets us rank up partners a 2nd time. Would have been really useful a couple chapters ago, but okay. Vivian is the highest priority to rank up, gaining another attack point on her basic attack for a total of 5 damage. Her new skill, Infatuate, costs 4 FP and has you press A when a heart appears over an enemy's head. If you don't do that, it doesn't work. I saved before testing out all partners' ultra rank skills to decide which to bring into chapter 6. Goombella's is the 4 FP Rally Wink that if you press A or B while the corresponding button glows, gives Mario an extra turn if filled to the bar. I'll give you one guess as to what happens if you don't fill the bar. Koops gets the 6 FP skill Shell Slam, which without rapidly tilting the controller to the left is exactly the same as his Power Shell except it pierces defense. Not that useful, but I still rank him up for the extra health. Madame Flurry gains the 4 FP skill Dodgy Fog, which I was surprised actually gives Mario 1 turn of the dodgy status instead of the 4 from tilting the control stick in the proper direction 3 times. Dodgy gives Mario a 50% chance to dodge attacks, which stacks with other evasion sources, so it's pretty good against multiple enemies. I ultra rank Flurry for this reason. Benny gains the 6 FP skill Stampede that attacks all grounded enemies. It fills a gauge by rapidly alternatively pressing ZL and ZR. Without filling it, it only does 1 instance of damage and only 1 at that. Bobbery's rank ups give him the 4 FP skill Hold Fast, which without pressing A every time the star lights up gives him 1 turn of reflecting half of the damage he takes from direct attacks. His next skill is the 9 FP Bombast, which without repeatedly tapping A does 1 damage to all enemies. It's expensive, and if we ever need to hit all enemies, Vivian's got a cheaper skill to do so. Miss Mouse's ultra rank gives her the 10 FP Smooch, which fills the gauge by alternatively pressing A or B. If not filled, it heals Mario for 1 health. FP well spent. We also got the 5 SP Sweet Feast, which does nothing. What were you expecting at this point? I mean, it still heals poison too, but still. Chapter 6 only has 1 required fight, but it's the toughest one yet for multiple reasons. You know how we've been using sleep strats for a while? Well, they're immune to that, and all stats conditions for that matter. Smorg also attacks with each tentacle every turn, so we've got 3 attacks to worry about, and Smorg can only truly be damaged after taking out the 3 tentacles, revealing the weak point that has 50 health. Once revealed, Smorg does nothing for 2 turns, but then regrows the tentacles and attacks the team immediately. We can't do damage fast enough, but maybe we can take damage slow enough. The first thing I tried was taking out 2 of the 4 health tentacles with Vivian in 1 hit, which meant the team would only be attacked by a single 5 damage tentacle. I would then use the badge I bought for 8 star pieces, Quick Change, which for 7 badge points allows swapping between partners without the action using up either party member's turn. This allows for some wacky strategies. Here, it lets me freely switch Koops in to put up a shell shield whenever it gets destroyed to protect Mario, while on any other turn, Goombella charges up in an attempt to one-shot the boss herself. The only problem is this requires way too much FP, so I never got close, even with Flower Saver P to reduce Shell Shield to 3 FP. I tried lowering Mario's attack with badges, which would also need to negate the passive buff from the Ultra Boots, boosting jumping attacks by another 1 damage, acquired earlier in the chapter. If lowered to 0, I thought Mario could jump on the tentacle for no damage to recover FP from FP drain, but that only works if Mario actually does damage, which I gotta admit is kinda stupid. With all of our defensive badges, Mario still takes too much damage, even with Last Stand having damage and danger. But then it hit me. I just played a casual playthrough of this game before starting the challenge, and I could have sworn I had 1 extra Defend Plus badge at this point, which should make a strategy where Mario spends every turn defending work. You see, I made the massive mistake of following an IGN guide. Stupid, I know, but it's been telling me where all the pickups in the game are so I don't miss anything. At least that was the point. And every time I tried to outsmart it to get something I thought was possible earlier in the game, it wasn't, so I started to trust it. The guide doesn't mention a specific room you need to use Mario's boat mode to go to. So I loaded my backup save just before I entered the train, since you can't go back to Rogueport before finishing the chapter, and made my way to the room I thought had the badge I needed. Maybe the room only has the 3 shine sprites. Or maybe it's a Defend Plus P, you know? Or maybe once you get there you fall off the map and it's a game over. No! No! I mean, it's good, but no. So I had the pleasure of replaying the worst chapter in the game again. To speed things up, I stole the earrings and gold ring just to return them quicker. I also pulled the bridge up, but this time I had the elevator key. It was all worth it because now I have 3 defense passively on Mario with 1 P down, D up, and 2 defend pluses. By guarding with Mario every turn, he has 4 defense, and thus takes 2 damage from the tentacle. If he's in danger, he only takes 1 damage thanks to Last Stand. That alone, it still isn't enough to survive as long as he needs to, so he's also got 2 Happy Hearts equipped that, like Happy Flower, give him a 50% chance to heal 1 health at the start of the turn, both rolling separately. Now we can focus on winning with partners. Again, Vivian is needed to one-shot 2 tentacles to heavily reduce Smarts' damage. Every turn, Goombella switches into charge, then she can swap out to another partner so she's never in risk of fainting. If we're out of FP while we wait for Happy Flower to kick in, defend with a partner so we can stall longer, but we should be able to fully charge Goombella long before we're out of meat shields, as her and Vivian are the only partners we need alive for attacking. This is because once Goombella has a big enough charge, I switch in Vivian to take out the final tentacle, leaving the boss vulnerable to Goombella's head smash. In case you were wondering, the lowest health Mario ever had was 4, but he soon recovered back to 8, so he was very safe. We use the Ultra Boots to get the Ultra Hammer. These both give us new attacks. Spring Jump for 4 FP does 2 extra damage, which isn't bad, but I'd usually rather use the 2 FP Power Jump instead. Ultra Hammer is 4 FP and is useless. Showstopper is our new 2 SP special move, which requires action commands to increase the chance of instantly killing enemies, but can't work on most bosses anyway, and even if it could, it won't without getting the button sequences right. Chapter 7 has a lot of backtracking, which sucks, since I could have named this video Paper Mario, but I added more backtracking, and the title probably would have been more accurate, as you've probably noticed by now. But eventually we get shot to the moon. The next boss is Magnus von Grapple 2.0. Bad news is, he's immune to sleep. Good news is, he isn't immune to freeze, so I pull out my freeze hammer for the 20% chance to freeze, which is pretty much the same as sleep, but for 2 turns. During a practice fight, I realized it would be best to come in with Vivian and Goombella in danger, since Vivian can deal the most damage, and once the boss loses enough health, he summons his fists as separate enemies that protect themselves with front-facing spikes to counter Vivian, so Goombella would have to deal with the fists instead. After they attack, I could quick change them out to keep them safe. But then the boss got frozen quickly, and then he targeted Flurry with his audience cannon. And then he got frozen again. And sure, it was lucky, but I wasn't about to look a horse directly into a mouth. We all know coming in with my partners in danger would have been more optimal, so this time let's use our imagination and say I did. This unlocks Mario's final special move, the 6 SP Supernova. If you were hoping star points would be at all relevant in this challenge, then sorry, because it does nothing. This chapter is full of bosses. Admittedly, I fought some basic enemies on the way, like the Bombshell Bill Blasters, which I think are required to encounter, though you can run away. And these Chain Chomps, who are annoying when backtracking. Fight me. It didn't go well for them. The first mini-boss is Gloomtail. I tried starting this fight in danger to increase my odds of winning, but that was way more trouble than it was worth, honestly. Instead, I just used 2 Sleepy Stomps to put him to sleep for 7 turns, with a 30% chance of working. Then I lowered his defense with Soft Stomp, which is a 70% chance. It's an easy win with an early sleep, and a quick loss without one. Perfect for saving time. Next up is the There's 3 of them. This won't be a pushover like Gloomtail. Bungo and Marilyn have 40 health and Beldum has 30. Instead of rushing them down, I think it's best to focus on one at a time. Otherwise, there would be too many turns where Mario just dies in 1 or 2 hits. I start the fight by sleepy stomping Marilyn, which has a 50% chance to work. She's the highest priority to put to sleep since she does the most damage again, and doesn't have any dialogue to wake up early. This time we'll actually need danger damage, so Mario and Vivian enter the fight with 1 health. And with multiple enemies, Koops' shell shield often isn't enough to consistently survive, so it's time to use Flurry's Dodgy Fog to give Mario a 93% chance to dodge attacks for the turn while he's in danger. I also use Feeling Fine P to prevent Beldum from freezing my partners, since switching out a frozen partner makes the one who swaps in lose their turn. Unfortunately, it doesn't protect from the slow status, which also prevents swap partners from getting their turn. This leaves Beldum alive for an extra attack, as my plan was to kill her with Vivian and Mario, but now my best option is to try and put Wingus asleep, which has a 40% chance and actually worked, turning my bad luck into good luck. Even better, Beldum wastes her turn buffing the sleeping Bungo, so now we can do what I wanted to last turn and take her out of the fight. We do enough damage to win before either of the 2 remaining enemies wake up. And looking back on it, it would have been more optimal to have Bobbery out on the turn Wingus transformed, since he would only be able to target the character in front, making Mario safer. Finally, we fight Sir Grotus. His fight is unlike any we've had so far. He starts it with 4 Grotus X's on the field, and whenever there are 4 of them, they form a shield to make Sir Grotus immune to damage. He also gains 1 defense for each one on the field. He summons 2 of these every turn, even when asleep, though sleep isn't good in this fight as he has too much dialogue. Enough where he says something every turn if we're hitting him as hard as we need to. Chatty Cathy much? I mean, jeez. Our best bet is to use partners to kill all the Grotus X's in 1 hit, and then do huge damage with Mario. We have 2 skills that can hit all the Grotus X's. Bob-Bombast, which costs 9 FP, only going down to 7 with 2 Flower Saver Ps, and Vivian's Fiery Jinx, which will go down to 4 FP, but we'll need all our attackers to be in danger for this to work. To get all my partners I wanted to be at 1 health, I had to run all the way back out of the 1,000-mile away door, and then run to the Glitz Pit and give Mario defensive badges so only the partner would die to Goombas, then run away and get bad dialogue and regret my decision, and then make Mario lose health to fire hazards, and then run all the way back to Sir Grotus, and then he was mad at me for taking so long. It wasn't my fault you can exit pipe until Shadow Queen, but now we're ready. All we can do is maximize our odds of winning, so I start with Vivian's Fiery Jinx to take out all the 3 health Grotus X's, swap her out for a healthy partner not needed for attacking, and power jump with Mario for 13 damage. Then switch in Bobbery to use his Bob-Bombast, which does a little more damage, but more importantly, we don't need to switch him out to save time each reset. In fact, after Mario attacks, we want Bobbery to die, since one of the possible attacks from Grotus freezes, which doesn't work on dead people, allowing both Mario and Vivian to always attack for lethal next turn. Most of the time, Grotus will hit the entire party again, and if I can't dodge 2 attacks to save my life, did you really think I could do so to save the world? We just have to reset until getting lucky enough to get through, which wouldn't be so bad if there wasn't a fight immediately after this one without saving or healing FP in between them. Good thing I level up from beating Sir Grotus then. Now, I know I said to always pick badge points, but to maximize my odds of beating Bowser, I need to select flower points instead. It's okay, we can change them to badge points later. We enter this fight no longer in danger, but the FP restored is definitely a better trade-off. Unfortunately, we need to get pretty lucky to win this fight too. We're really hoping for a first turn 40% chance sleep against Kammy Koopa, as we want to focus her down since she has less health and a lot of annoying support skills. I always start with Koops' Shell Shield, since if I get a turn 1 sleep, it's better than Dodgy Fog. Unfortunately, having 2 back-to-back RNG fights means my odds of everything going right for both of them in a row are lower, since most of the time Kammy Koopa refused to take a nap, and her and Bowser would both target Mario without Pretty Lucky activating, so I would immediately lose. That or Stage Hazard would wake her up early. On my winning attempt, water from the stage did just that, but made up for it by freezing both of them. I'll take it since the stage not interfering at all would have been preferable. It's best to use Vivian to attack and swap her out instead of trying to get her in danger, since Bowser's Stomp can remove the target's attack command for 3 turns. But my previous attempt had the audience throw stuff at Mario 3 times, killing him. I'm still not over that one. Also, I haven't mentioned this yet, but the audience really doesn't like when you miss action commands. Not you guys love this. The other audience. They throw rocks or cans at me very often, but there is one way I can stop it without the action command. Quickly choose to attack or swap to a different partner to make them miss. This makes the rocks only a threat if you're far enough away from what you need to do this turn, but it's very satisfying to dodge if you're fast enough. It scared me and had me select my moves extremely quickly at the start of the fight, and I accidentally forgot to swap Vivian out and she lost her attacks. So I just switched her in after a different partner attack to get rid of it. Thankfully, I was able to put Cammy asleep again, and even though Bowser didn't sleep at first, I was able to shield Mario from his attacks until he did. With both asleep, we can safely focus Cammy down before the stage wakes her up. I know it wanted to since it woke Bowser up early. Luckily, we were able to put him right back to sleep. I damage him until he gets to exactly 36 health since he is dialogue at 35. This lets me stall a couple of turns to regain some FP we'll need to finish the fight. He falls asleep right away again, but Fog appears on his side to give Bowser a 50% chance to dodge any attack. I keep trying to power jump with Mario as he misses both, and Vivian connects with her attacks. That's enough to guarantee victory with Vivian and another power jump next turn. I know it's not the cleanest strategy, but we needed some luck here. That just leaves the Shadow Queen. Her first phase is extremely easy. She only has 1 attack per turn, so Koops just shields Mario whenever he loses it, and we should be able to get a 30% chance sleep before she switches to the next phase after taking enough damage. It's worse since I think you need to attack her for 3 turns while she's immune to damage to end the phase, but before that happens you need to survive her 3 attacks per turn. I just do shield strats and apply Dodgy Fog under the shield when I can, though entering with Mario in danger would increase his evasion further with no downside since he pretty much dies in 1 hit here anyway, as he's built to damage the final phase as quickly as possible. You automatically heal thanks to Princess Peach, who has sided with the Shadow Queen, which is why I didn't bother being in danger right away, as all we have to do in the final phase is get a sleep on the Shadow Queen on turn 1 or 2, which is a 30% chance again. I was worried about the hands attacking, but they don't regenerate while she's asleep, so Mario just spams Sleepy Stomp, and he and Vivian are built to do as much damage as possible without being in danger, which makes them each deal 5 damage for a total of 10 damage per turn. Thankfully, the Shadow Queen wastes a turn charging sometimes, making this even easier. So, all in all, it only took a couple of tries, and we officially cheesed Paper Mario the Thousand-Year Door without action commands. You know, except that one time. Twice. I know I relied on luck a bit, but with this rule set, I kind of had to, so I hope it was still enjoyable to watch. If you want to see me try some optional bosses or the full Pit of 100 Trials with this challenge, let me know. I don't want to promise I'll do it since I've got a lot of other projects, so requesting it or liking the video lets me know you really want to see it. Thanks for watching.